feel free to finish up there. We would like to get started with the program if everyone is ready to do that. First, I'd like to bring up our MC this afternoon, and he is a past DSBA president, also the voice of the Detroit Red Wings. Please welcome Ken Cal.
Thanks, Vicki. That's the radio voice. We don't want to upset Ken Daniels because he's the TV voice. I'd like to start out before we bring up our special and honored guest today with, yesterday was Easter, and I just want to ask everybody here, what do you call a group of Easter bunnies marching backwards? Anybody know?
Pakistani.
No, it's called a receding hairline. Something that I'm used to. But anyways, I want to say Happy Easter to everybody here today. This is probably our favorite time of the year here in Detroit, and what a better time to talk hockey playoffs than right now. And this is where it all begins, the quest for the Stanley Cup. And I'd like to introduce our special guest right now, bring him up to the front. He's been so gracious with his time over the years, talking to the Detroit sports broadcasters. Ladies and gentlemen, nice round of applause for the Detroit Red Wings General Manager, Kenny Holland. Kenny, again, welcome, and it's an honor to have you again here talking to the DSBA.
Yeah, thanks. Nice to be with you all. It's an exciting time of the year. Going to the playoffs, and the Tigers are 3-0, so great time of the year.
If you look at the playoffs, Kenny, and you look at all the matchups, how do you see the Red Wings-Nashville matchup compared to some of the other ones that are in the West and in the East?
Well, I think first off, we've talked since 2005 about parity in the National Hockey League, and I think each year there's more parity than the year before, and I think there's a lot of reasons that there's more parity all the time. Obviously the salary cap floor and ceiling is the thing that everybody talks about, but if you look at the trade deadline, it's getting harder and harder to make deals at the deadline because I think more and more teams are hanging on to their blue chip prospects and their high draft picks. You think back to the late 90s and early 2000s when the Colorado Avalanche, Detroit Red Wings, and Dallas Stars were real aggressive at the trade deadline. We traded 8 first-round picks from 1995 to 2003 to bring in players like Brendan Shanahan and Dominic Hasek, and there's some other guys, Robert Lang and Matthew Schneider. Now teams are hanging on to their draft picks, so ultimately teams are getting a steady flow of young players, and which all adds up to a chase to make the playoffs starting in early October, and we're thrilled to be in the playoffs. Our series against Nashville, I assess our series like I do any of the other 3 series in the West. Anybody can win. You got to go out. For the next 2 days, all the experts are going to go out and make their their predictions and their picks, and I've seen some early predictions. I think a lot of people are picking Nashville in the series, but I like where we're at. We feel that we're just about healthy. Darren Helm, if he doesn't play game 1, we certainly expect him for game 2. Dan Cleary will be back in the lineup. Some of the guys that were out for 5-6 weeks with injuries have got 5-6 games under their belt, and I like where we're at.
And what area, Kenny, would you say needs improvement, or would you like to see improve going into the playoffs here for the first game on Wednesday?
Well, obviously, we talked. There's 3 or 4 or 5 different ingredients come playoff time, and one of them is specialty teams. And Nashville's number 1 in the power play, so we've got to we got to do 2 things. Number 1, we got to try to stay out of the box and limit their chances. Don't give them 4, 5, 6 chances in the power play. Give them 2 or 3. And then secondly, I think our penalty killing has been a lot better the last 5, 6, 8, 10 games. Jonathan Ericsson's been a big part of our penalty kill. When you get somebody out there that's 6'5" with a lot of reach, he's got some confidence and really developing at the age of 27, developing into the player that we hoped and thought he could be 3-4 years ago. Remember the Anaheim series in 2008 when he got called up. And then obviously the power play, they're number 1 in the league on the power play. So like I said, we got to stay out of the penalty box, do a good job in the penalty kill. Our power play hasn't been as productive this year. I think we're middle of the pack and not very good the last 40 games. But again, when you got the personnel that we've got you know, and the history that we've got, we believe if we can get her going, we can start to be productive on the power play. But I think specialty teams beyond that, both teams have real good goaltending. Both teams are real good defensively. You know, Chicago, Vancouver, and us were all within one goal for the highest scoring. Those three teams, Detroit, Vancouver, and Chicago, were three of the top three scoring teams in the Western Conference. You look at the goals for and against between Nashville and us, the goals differential. Our season series was 3-3. It's really probably, as we sit here today, it's a pick-em series. I think it's really close. I expect a long series. And I expect some overtime games, and I expect a real close, tightly fought series.
Now, you mentioned earlier on that the Wings in years gone by have been perhaps the favorites going into the first round of the playoffs. Now, maybe they've got that underdog title. They're not the favorites. How did the Red Wings approach that? How's the coaching staff and you as a general manager approach being an underdog, so to speak, going into the playoffs?
Well, I think obviously we're probably the underdog because they've got home ice, and Nashville picked up a lot of real good players at the trade deadline, and then they got Radulov back, so they obviously got deeper. But I think that the adversity that we went through for the last 6 weeks, with all the injuries, our coaches know what Gustav Nyquist can do. They know what Brendan Smith can do. Jakob Kindl got some ice time. Corey Emerton and Jan Mursak got to play. So, I think we're deeper today than we were 3 months ago, which obviously depth is going to be important. We rested Dan Cleary for the last couple of games to give him a week off heading into the playoffs. I talked to Pete Van Zandt today, our trainer, as the team is practicing. He feels good. He'll be in the lineup for game one. Like I said, help is close. So, I don't think there are any underdogs and favorites. I think that the league today is really, really close, and you got to win it on the ice. So all the people have to make their predictions. That's what they get paid to do. But ultimately, Nashville finished 2 points ahead of us in the standings. We were 3-3 in the season series. When you look at our goals for, we're a little bit better goals for. We're similar goals against. Our differential goals for and against is similar. They've certainly been better on the specialty teams. Again, that's an area that we're focused in on, and we think that we can do a good job because certainly on the power play because of the personnel we've got and the history that we've got over the last few years.
If anybody has any questions, I'll ask another question here, and then we'll bring the microphone around to you. There's always unsung heroes in playoffs, guys that usually step up their game and become heroes. Who do you see on the Red Wings right now that could fit that role?
Well, I think this time of the year you're looking for secondary scoring. We know what the high-end players on both teams can do. Certainly for us, for our team, Dan Cleary is a guy that's been a good playoff performer. Drew Miller, Darren Helm, we expect to get him going. All our secondary scorers. We're going to have to get some secondary scoring if we're going to advance. And Drew Miller's had a career year at 14 goals. Darren Helm's 25 years of age, so I think that on defense, we feel good about. We trade our first-round pick to acquire a defenseman, Kyle Quincy. I think that we like our 6 defensemen. We know what we've got 1 or 2 guys that we also think that we go in, so we feel good about our depth. But I think that this time of the year, it's about secondary scoring and it's about surprise people. Who are the surprises? I'm not sure. That's why we got to play the games.